Good afternoon, grade 12s. Hope you are doing well. And thank you on behalf of your teacher for putting in the extra effort and being here, wanting to do better, which is always a good thing. So today's topic is quality. Now, for some, this is a very difficult concept to understand. And especially if we start looking at quality of performance, we look at quality control and quality assurance. And then there's a lot of different concepts that a lot of different people interpret differently. Now, the basic idea behind quality, and that's why there's a kind of a standardized definition for it. And it refers to the ability of a good or a service, so that means products or services, to satisfy a need. Now, remember, if you talk about a need, that could be a want as well. So that means for needs and wants, you need to look at how does it satisfy that particular need or want. Because you can only say it's a quality product if it satisfied the need. There's no point in you buying something, pardon me, and then it doesn't satisfy your need, because then it's definitely not a quality product. But the concept of quality now pulls through all the way into products and businesses. And at the end, we will look at quality of performance for businesses. And then we look specifically at how do we gauge the quality of a business by means of looking at the business functions. So we start off with quality control. Now, quality control, like it says in the definition, is the inspection of the final product to ensure that it meets the required standards. Now, one thing you need to understand and you need to think of is these required standards. What and where does it come from? Because these standards, you can't make up along the line. So all of these standards need to be at the beginning. So before the product is made, these standards have to be set up and decided on before you can even start making the product. So that means you need to understand where you are going with this. You need to understand, as a next part, what the needs and wants are that is to be satisfied. So to control it, you need to be able to see, okay, so these are the parameters we're working with. These are the basic ideas of what it needs to be, before you can then actually at the end decide what the situation is. Just remember, it says final product. So that means this happens right at the end of the production process. So that means it's done. The product has been made. There's no going back. So looking at quality control means you're checking at the end of the process, whatever came out, that is what you are checking to see, did everything happen the way we planned it? Because these standards is what now makes sure or guarantees that the consumers will then actually be able to satisfy their needs or their wants with this particular product. So if you look at the picture on the side here, where it says trick candle, quality control department. Now, the quick candle literally means that it doesn't die. There's one of those candles you blow and blow and blow and blow and blow, and it never just dies. It just carries on burning. So here you can see the person blowing, and then it looks like it's going dead, but then afterwards, it's still alive at the end. And that's exactly what quality control is. You are checking to see if the product does what it is supposed to be doing. But that happens right at the end of the process, the production process. So if we look at quality assurance, now is where you need to start keeping mind and holding your mind fast to make sure that you don't get confused, because quality assurance is during and after. So which one comes first? Not necessarily any one in particular, but you need to understand that during cannot be quality control, because quality control happens right at the end. So quality assurance is what you do during the process. And why do you do quality assurance? Why does businesses implement quality assurance? To reduce waste. Because when you do get to the end, so at the end, when you do quality control, that means if something's wrong, you waste it. So all the products that was made, all the resources that was used is wasted. So that means in order to reduce the waste at the end, to make sure that you can salvage some of it, to reduce your cost and increase your profit, you look at quality assurance during the whole process. So that means, once again, these standards that we are looking at here, so all of these standards must be implemented or must be known before the production process starts. So that means this must be set up beforehand, because otherwise, how are you going to test it? Because if there's no parameters, then you cannot test it. So it is required standards, but it is required to have the standards set up. And who does this? Remember, quality is something that will happen at a senior or top level management. They decide on what they want. So these needs to be set up in such a way that when the business starts producing the product, everyone knows exactly what you are aiming for. And away it goes. Right. So we look at quality performance. Now, this is another one. And now you need to start thinking like a proper business student, which you are, I'm sure. So total performance of each department measured against a specific standard. So quality or quality of performance are now looking at departments. And departments are generally divided into what? Who can tell me what? That would be your 8 business functions. So going back all the way to grade 10, you now need to know what the 8 business functions was. So these 8 business functions, I'm not going to stress that point too much now because we'll get to it. Don't worry. So the 8 business functions, or the business is divided into departments, and that is basically based on the 8 business functions. So quality of performance looks at how each department functions. But now you need to remember, each department has a set of jobs. They've got things they need to do. They've got a basic job description. So quality of performance is not necessarily just them doing their job. They need to go be above and beyond. They need to look at what can they do extra? How can we do our job better? And that's the idea you need to think of when it comes to quality of performance. Because you need to understand the concept of this is the baseline. This is what human resources are supposed to be doing. But if they go that one step above, that's quality of performance. That's when they do better than they would have done. So just doing their job, just doing what they're supposed to be doing is not necessarily quality of performance. So how do you now get all of this together? How do you pull yourself towards yourself so that you now can understand what needs to be done? So this is where you look at quality management. Now, let me refer you back to grade 10, because a lot of this is based on grade 10 work. So let's go and see quality management. Now I'm focusing on the word management. This is what you need to look at. So this word right there, quality management, is, and I hope someone shouted out now, a level. So that means management is divided into different levels. And each level of management will now determine who does what. But managing is something that you need to look at and understand from the basics of. So management is the levels of management. So you start off with the levels of management. But now that's not necessarily what I want to focus on, because top, middle, and lower management and the decisions they make. But what is the tasks of management? So a task of management, you would have known something like this or like this. And that would stand for planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. Right. So those are the 4 tasks of management. So when you do quality management, you need to plan, you need to lead, you need to organize, and you need to control. And this is where all of it comes together. So when you do something like quality management, then that means it's the process, because it's a process. You need to check, because quality assurance, remember, goes from the beginning all the way to the end, and quality controls happen at the end. So that means you look at assuring, hint, hint, quality assurance. You look at assuring that when you control it at the end, or you check it at the end, nothing wrong is there. So you manage all the activities. So that means you look at all the activities from start to finish, that you work at a consistently high standard. And remember, these standards are set at the beginning. So that means you've got the parameters to work with before you start. Because you need to now implement a QMS. And now you're going to ask me, Mr. Steyn, what? Johan, what is happening? QMS. And that, ladies and gents, is a quality management system. Now, this is a formalized system that documents the processes, the procedures, and the responsibility for achieving the quality. Now, you remember in grade 10, you look at a business plan as the blueprint for the business. And that consists of all of your vision, mission, goals, and objectives, your marketing plan. It's got all of that in place. Now, a quality management system is then a document. Why do we use a document? Because you've written it down. You cannot go back. You can't change your mind halfway through and screw up the whole process. So it's a formalized system. So that means you choose something that focuses on the quality of the business. Because in the exam, you need to understand that quality management improves the business. It makes it better. It makes the people more happy. It makes the profit more. It increases the business's productivity, because now resources are used much more effectively and efficiently. So quality management system is something that you can't implement halfway through, because whatever you did before then is mahala, because it now means absolutely nothing. So at some point, you need to understand that the quality of management or the management of the quality in the business needs to be at a very high point, needs to be on point. So you will get questions such as, explain the advantages of implementing a good quality management system in a business. So why would you want to? Because that's now the question. And that's where I think some of you sometimes get confused. So if you look at advantages, advantages now literally means the following. Why would I? So when you look at advantages, let's just make the color the same. So why would I implement it? To start off with, it also means, what is my impact? So what will happen if I? And sometimes I think that's the biggest issue. You do not understand how you need to interpret the question and what you need to answer. So that means when it says advantages, it's a good thing because, I'm sure I'm going to type it in. It's your. So that means if I now do something, it will. If I buy my mom flowers, then she might make me my favorite dinner. If I buy my girlfriend a chocolate, she might smile at me more, or whatever the case. Why would you want to buy your girlfriend a chocolate? So you need to look at exactly what and how. And then just for the sake of being thorough, now you see that at the end, it gives you a mark out of 8. Now, by now, hopefully. And if you didn't, no judgment. What does it mean? So now we look at the mark allocation. So now it gives you 8 marks in total, right? So if it says 8 marks, what does it mean? That means in total, you need to have 4 full sentences, which will then be 2 marks, and that will give you the 8 that the total is. Now I'm putting number off and I'm screwing myself over. Right, so that means you look at 8, and that is where the mark allocation comes from. So that means, as an example, we can start off and say, why would I want to implement a quality management system? Why do we want something that checks how the products are being made? Because if we do it right, and then we'll go to the side here in the little block, you'll see, let me just get yet another color. I'm running out of colors. So that means if I do this properly, if I put a quality management system in place and I do it properly, my time and my resources are used efficiently. Why do we say efficiently? Because if we don't have to remake products, we can start making new products. Listen carefully. When you don't have to remake products, you can start making new products or more products. Because if you now have to go back and remake products, you use more resources, you waste time, and that means the business is not efficient, not making as much profit as possible, not using resources in the way it was intended. Then you can also say products and services are constantly improved, because if I don't have to remake something, I can make what I make better. I can improve it. I can do something that the clients and the customers want. And by doing this, I increase my market share more. So that means now I'm selling better products. Why are customers now buying from me? Why are they buying from me? Because what did I do? I gained competitive advantage. So that means I'm now doing something different. Competitive advantage means I'm doing something different. And because I'm doing something different, people might be more inclined to actually now buy my product because it's new and improved. There's a concept I never could understand where it says new and improved, because it's either new because it never existed, or it's improved and it existed and it is now better. So new and improved is a marketing scheme. That's my opinion, but anyway, I'm off topic. So that means you gained a competitive advantage. So when you gain a competitive advantage, it means you are going to be better. That means the customers are going to come to you and not go to your consumers. So then also the next question, that example question that they give you is analyze the impact of total quality management on large businesses with references to continuous skills development. Now that we'll get to, but I just want to show you that quality management system, QMS, and total quality management is not necessarily the same concept. Even though it fits in with one another, it's not the same thing, because a lot of people get confused between quality management systems and total quality management, because the system or the quality management system is a process. It's something formalized and structured that is implemented because it consists out of processes and procedures. And then obviously the most important one, gives you responsibility. So that responsibility comes with consequences. So that means if people in a specific business don't do what they're supposed to be doing, or in a specific department does what they're not supposed to be doing, there's consequences. So total quality management is not necessarily the same thing as quality management systems, but it works together. So when we get to the concept of quality, this is basically how you should see it. So it starts off with the concept of quality. So that means, can the product satisfy the need, yes or no? Then we look at quality assurance. So that means things that we do during the process to ensure that, I'm confusing myself now. So things that you look at that is done during, so that when we get to the end and quality control needs to happen, we're saving money, because everything during was done at the standards, the required standards that it was supposed to, so that when it gets to the end, that checklist being ticked off, it works. But you need to know whether it can satisfy the need or the want of the consumer before, and this will be used to set up those required standards. So you've got something to work with. It's not something you pluck out of thin air. Right. Then the quality management is the idea of managing the activities. So that means you take the activities that now the product goes through. So that means these activities for the during. It's going to look very confusing now, but I'm sorry. So the managing all of the activities during and after the production process. And all of this that you're now testing for that high standard. And this is why you've got a quality management system. So that means this is where the quality management system comes in. This is where the QMS comes in, where you've now checked the processes, you've finalized the procedures, and you've indicated the responsibilities, not just for the sake of consequences, but you've put that in to state, and this is the important thing, who does what, because that is important. you need to have all of this, and this is communicated by management. And that's one of management's jobs. They need to communicate the responsibilities so that people know who is doing what and when they are doing it. Then you look at total quality management. So now the picture becomes bigger and 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 fatter, like the fat man in front of you today. So you look at how all of this fits together. So it starts with something small like quality, and it zooms out to total quality management, because total quality management looks at everything. So an integrated system, and this is the key word, throughout the organization, which helps provide the quality service. So that means total quality management looks at what influence does the secretary answering the phone have on how my products sell and what the quality of my products are. Everyone's responsible. In the end, everyone is responsible for quality, because quality starts the day the business opens their doors and ends the day it closes. Quality is about the holistic idea of the business. So total quality management is about the system, and it's about how that is implemented throughout the business. Because, like I said at the beginning, you want to provide quality products and services, and who to? The customers. They are the important ones. Because you want to get to a point where the customers come back. But then, don't forget, in all of this, you need to look at what the performance of each department is. And that's going to be one of the standards. So that means with total quality management, this integrated system will look at each department, what they do, what their what part they play in all of this, and the whole quality idea. So that when you get to the final point, you understand what these specific standards is or are. So when you look at all of this, start small, don't overthink it, and focus on what it is. So focus on quality is the product's ability to satisfy the need. How do I assure this? I make sure that everything I do, from my resources to the system to the people that makes the products, are qualified, it's good quality resources, and the machines I'm using is kept up. They are serviced, they are looked after. You stop ever so often to make sure that everything is good and running, so that at the end, we can control it, we can check it. All of this falls under a quality management system. So that means a formalized system with processes and procedures that is implemented and assigns responsibility to certain people or departments, so that management can check, can control how quality is managed. And I'm going back to this block in the middle here, how quality is managed in the business. Because all the quality blockage you see here falls under total quality management, where it's an integrated system and everyone is responsible. So then the question, or then the top tip for the day is, you must be able to distinguish between quality control, quality assurance, as well as quality management and quality of performance. So that means you will have this versus this, and you will have this. Let's just change versus this. So this one against that one, this one against that one. So then what you need to understand is quality assurance during and after, so that quality control at the end, final product is inspected. There is no wastage and no time wasting. Quality management is activities checking so that the whole business produces goods of good standard, and quality performance is the checking and the running of each department. So now you're focusing in on the smaller detail of the business. So then in an exam, this is what the question will look like. It will literally say distinguish between quality control and quality assurance. So that means, once again, total of 4 marks, and then hint, hint, nudge, nudge. How many things do you write down? 2 things, because you will write something for quality control and you will write something for quality assurance. And remember, very important, and I'm somehow going to put it in caps, always in full sentences. One of the instructions on the paper's front, remember this. Always, please remember. So this is putting quality into how this puts quality into a little bit better perspective for you. Right. So looking at total quality management. Now, total quality management is an integrated system. So that means over all departments, over all the people. And you can then be asked to elaborate on the meaning of total quality management. So, I mean, what's up? Total quality management sounds like a buzzword fancy people use, and just in the end, it means it's more work for everyone. But in the end, if total quality management is implemented properly, it means everyone works less, because now you're working smart and not hard. So total quality management focuses on achieving customer satisfaction, because in the end, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guys and gals, customer satisfaction is the ultimate goal. Why? Because if we satisfy the customer, what do? They come back. What do they give us? More money. So customer satisfaction looks for continuous improvement, because they're not satisfied. You know how fashion changes. You know how people's idea of products changes. So that means the business cannot be stagnant with regards to development. So in all business processes, products and services. So that means throughout the business, you can't fix something if you don't know what is broken. So that means you need to be able to understand that the whole business needs to, and I want to put this, reinvent itself. To understand that you cannot stay stagnant. If you look at Nokia, for instance, at some point, no one knew about Nokia. Because what did Nokia do? They came out with a phone that could not be killed. I don't know whether you are old enough to understand or remember the Nokia 5110 or the 3310. Now, if you don't, ask your teachers. They will know somewhere they would have had one, either a 3310, a 3330, or a 5110. Everyone had a Nokia. It couldn't die. You couldn't kill it. But Nokia didn't move with the times. When BlackBerry came out, it basically killed Nokia. And that's why Nokia eventually was bought over by, I think, the Windows people, the Microsoft people. So that means they didn't move with the times. And that was the problem. There was no continuous improvement. Only now Nokia surfaces with smartphones and things. But now it's not too late. It's never too late. But they waited too long. So total quality management means you work smart, not hard. You implement things before it's too late. Now then you've got elements. So what makes up, how do I TQM? I train my people. I make sure my customers are satisfied. I improve what I do. I make sure that I have adequate financing, because remember, research and development is expensive, and I monitor and evaluate. So those 5 things are the things how you would TQM. And it now sounds stupid when I say it like that, because I heard what I said. TQM is all about how do I get this integrated system to provide the quality products and services that my customers want. What do I do? It's like a name ways. How do, this is exactly. TQM is all about how do I. So if we carry on and we move on and we'll say, right, so TQM is now things that needs to be done, things that needs to be implemented. So we look at continuous skills development and training. And the question then, explain the following elements of total quality management right here on the side for question 2. This is out of a question paper. Total client customer satisfaction and continuous improvements to systems and processes. So how do I, no, it's not this one, but you can now understand it could have said continuous skills development. It could have said adequate financing. It could have said monitoring and evaluation. So how do I? What do I do? This is how you do it. This is how you do it. Okay, I'm getting off track here. So, impact, advantages, disadvantages. What is it? Why do we do it? That's kind of the idea. As soon as you hear the word impact, what will the business need to do? Why is it a good thing? So what is the positive impact of continuously training people? Now, I mean, you look at yourself. When you were a baby, you had to wear a nappy. And then what happened? Your parents potty trained you. Or your granny potty trained you. Now you've got a skill. You can keep it in. You can go to the bathroom and do your thing. So there was development. Then you grew up and you almost went to school. And before then, you couldn't write. You couldn't read. Now you're in school. Now you don't want to write and you don't want to read, but you have got the skill. So there was development. When you went into sub A, you didn't know what the word legislation means, but now you do. So there was development. One can only hope. So there was a betterment. There was something that happened to you, which is now better for you. So the positive things, when you look at continuous skills development, is you create specialized or skilled employees. That means they do their work properly the first time, you pay them their salary, the business grows, you can give them an increase. You can also now hire qualified trainers because the business is getting bigger and your employees are getting more skills. That means they will need constant refreshing. They will need constant betterment of their skills. So there needs to be development in their skills. And that would then, if you do it on a regular basis, and that's why the word continuous is in the name of the element, it needs to happen on a regular basis. The problem is now you put some effort into them. You train those employees. You train them and you train them and you train them and they've got skills, and then you treat them badly and they decide, you know what, Lasset, I'm leaving. So that means now they look for better jobs, but you've given them the skills. So that means the other business is benefiting from something you gave them. And that demotivates your employees. if they don't get recognition for the training. So that means there's a very thin line between training people, giving them recognition, and still keeping them working for your business. So you need to look after your employees very well when it gets to this. So we move on to the one that the question actually asked. So total client satisfaction. So why do we need to have the customers satisfied at all times? Because they need to come back and give us more money. That's basically what it is. So continuously promote a positive company image. Because now if the business works well and everything goes well, and it goes well like Shell, then you need to, it promotes the business because people are talking. I went there, is awesome. Or you are now access to the global market. So now someone visits South Africa, especially now, and people visit South Africa now again. So now they come here and they say, you know, I bought this from there. And like a friend of mine phoned me the other day and he was like, but I could find Mrs. Bowles in London. I'm like, dude, seriously. And that's how you gain access, because the South Africans, they wanted it. I mean, you don't compromise on chutney unless it's Mr. Bowles, or toothpaste unless it's Colgate. The rest, and some of you will say, tomato sauce is all gold. No, man. No. So you've got standards. So that means customers have standards. And now because you satisfy your customers' needs, it'll increase the competitiveness of your business. So that means it increases how you compete with your competitors. The problem is some employees are never satisfied. That sentence doesn't make sense, but that's what it's supposed to say. Some employees seldomly no, man, I'm talking nonsense, I'm confusing myself. So some employees seldomly encounter customers. So that means in a large business, I'm talking about a Checkers or something like this now, large business. The idea is that no matter who handles the client, everyone must treat them the same. But in a big business, if you don't get that active practice with working with clients, you forget. It's like riding a bicycle. You've got the skill, but you might fall still. So not all employees are committed. So that means in a big business, not everyone is as committed to total client satisfaction than the boss. So the people must be committed. So that means if you are committed to client satisfaction, that means the customer is always right without negatively affecting your employees. It's a good thing. So continuous improvement of processes and systems. You cannot work in a business these days with a computer that's got Windows Millennium on it, because you cannot send an email properly. You cannot do certain things. That means the competition will get you over. They will run over you. So in a big business, you need to make sure that you have more resources to check on quality of performance. So that means you need to double check how you spend your capital. So in a large business, there is capital to improve processes and systems. There is enough people in the business to actually form a quality circle. Now, you will need to know what a quality circle is. So go back to legislation, and that if you do not know, or just ask your teacher to just pause and tell you what a quality circle is. But the quality circle basically gives input on the production process, on the business, on all of these things. Continuous improvement of processes means you are looking at how does the business do what they do. So large scale manufacturing can complicate quality control. So that means if you make a lot, you need to basically select a sample, and that's it. You're going to check 10 out of the 10,000, and you're hoping and praying that everything works out well. So that means you cannot control and check every single product. If you've improved to the point where you've got mass production. Risk of changing parts of the business that are working well. So now why fix it if it ain't broke? If your accounting department works well, why you want to change something? You're going to annoy the ladies in the office and they're going to get angry, and it's not a good thing. So keep things, it's the wisdom to decide what do I change and what not. Adequate financing means, do I have enough money? And I'm going to use a simple example, such as upgrading my technology every 2 years. Large businesses has got it. They can improve and implement new technology. They can have new computers, new systems, all of that. But in small businesses, they can't. You can't spend that amount of money every year, every 2 years on upgrading the system. Big businesses can afford to research products. You can afford to make batch upon batch upon batch, test it with the market, where small businesses can't. If you take something like baking cookies, Bakers, the company, sells biscuits. They can make and test the market and make more and test and change and test and change and test and change and test. But if you make a batch of biscuits and it's not lacquer, then you can make another one, but you can't keep making it and making it, because at some point it's going to pile up and you have cookies you don't need. So that means if you've got business in a large business, that means the quality raw materials and the equipment can be better, so you can improve that. The problem is when demand for a product increases and orders come in faster, then the money might run out. So a lack of finance can then stop the resources being bought. And rapidly growing companies consume large amounts of capital. So that means you will need a lot of money, a lot of money. Then we look at the impact of monitoring and evaluating of quality processes. So in a large business, you get people appointed for this. So that means you can appoint people that have got the skills. So that means for the first one, under positives, you can get people that may be equipped to get things done the first time, do the right the first time, because they are skilled. Improve performance and maintaining high quality standards, because you've got the new technology now, you've implemented all of that. So you can check the standards. It says modify interventions that may improve the efficiency of resources. Now, you use your resources in a certain way. If you reduce the use of resources, that means you use less resources, cost you less money, the business makes more profit. Then if you look at the negatives, it often takes longer to detect problems or respond, because if you've now pressed the button on a mass-produced thing like a cell phone, you press the button, that machine starts. It makes 1 million of those things, and then only it stops. If there's a fault or a problem, all of the phones that came out of that machine's got that problem. So you're going to wait and waste money in large businesses, whereas in a small business, it's easier to pick up. But it's not viable to check the quality of all the products. Now, checking all million phones, switching them on, checking if the apps work, if it recognizes your thumb, all those type of things. So total quality management is something that you need to consider. And then it says the impact of total quality management, if poorly implemented. If you now don't do this properly, then employees may not be adequately trained. So that means you've now said you've done skills development in your business. But if it was done in a underprivileged way, under achieving way, then that means they will have that it says they have the skill, but they don't. And that means if they don't have the skill that they say they have, you will get poor quality products. If productivity decreases in the business, it can be because of work stoppages. So that means if we go back, you haven't checked the processes properly, and that could be a problem. The reputation of the business may suffer due to faulty goods. So that means the goods wasn't checked properly, the monitoring and the evaluation of the quality process didn't work, or there wasn't adequate financing, so people cut corners, or you used the wrong technology, or the skills that was supposed to be put in place wasn't. So that means if you look at poorly doing this, doing something and you say you do it halfway and you like decide I'll get 30 for this project, it's fine, I'll just leave it at that. That's the problem. Then we look at this mouse of mine. PDCA model, or the steps in the PDCA model. So plan, do, check, act. How do we implement this? So that means to plan, you need to identify a problem and how are you going to fix it. When you look at do, implement the change on a small scale, and you implement the processes and the system. So that means people need to be trained when you do this. Then you need to check or analyze. So that means there's standards beforehand to know that if you are doing it right or if you are doing it properly, and then acts as needed. So that is plan, do, check, act. That is the PDCA model. So this works hand in hand with your total quality management. So quality circles, just to finish this off, they investigate problems and suggest solutions to management, and they ensure that there is no duplication of tasks. So that means duplication of tasks saves money, saves time, saves resources, and it reduces the cost. Then this is always a very nice essay question. So how quality of performance can contribute to the success, and very much important, you need to focus on the reading of the question. Success and or failure of each business function. And this is the question that they will give you. So they will say, recommend the quality indicators for each of the following business functions. So quality indicator means how are they doing more than they are supposed to? How are they doing anything above and beyond so that they are focusing on more than what they should have, the quality of the performance. So general management. They're supposed to do vision, mission, goals, and objectives. So the owner starts off, they do that. Now the management sees a problem. What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to fix it. But fixing it isn't always the only thing you can do. You can be better afterwards. You don't have to just fix the problem. So that means you develop strategic plans, but effective ones that makes the business better even though there was a problem. You need to make sure that you don't just allocate resources. You just don't just tell them, listen, here's 105 pens, carry on. You give them 5, you save the rest. Because now what happens? If there's 105 pens, someone is lost, and I'll just take another one, and I'll just take another one. And now I lose that one, oh, I'll just take another one. At some point, the 105 pens run out. And then by March, you need to replace 105 pens. What happened now? I just lost it. So effective allocation of resources. It needs to be a shared vision and mission. So that means you need to communicate the vision and the mission effectively. Describe how the quality of performance within the following business functions is the key to success of the business. So that means marketing. They don't just market. They don't just do adverts. They acquire a greater market share through customer service. So that means they look after the people that buy it so that they can come back. Identify a competitive edge through regular market research, not the once-off and the customers know, and that's why Nokia died. Use aggressive advertising campaigns to sustain a market share. So not just make the marketing and sell the product. You do it continuously. You market aggressively so that people continuously are reminded. The admin are not just supposed to collect data and file it. They need to be fast and reliable so that they capture data on the processing system so that management can use the processed information for decision making. They need to handle complaints quickly because those complaints will influence how the business makes the product and how the customer service handles the client. And you need to make use of modern technology to be efficient. I mean, there's no way you can do it any other way. So how do you indicate quality in the purchasing? They don't just buy the resources, they buy them bulk. Why? Because it's cheaper. The business saves money. You don't buy from any random person. You buy from a reliable supplier that will not 2 days before delivery is supposed to happen say, sorry, we run out. And then you have to tell the customers, sorry, we'd run out. The purchasing department also orders their stuff way in advance so that you don't have to wait. There's no long waiting periods. So human resources don't just appoint someone. They don't just go down the street, see, okay, there's a person, he's doing nothing. Come, you are now running the till or the point of sale. It ensures fair and equitable selection processes. So that means it gives everyone an equal opportunity. It creates a good relationship with the employees. So that means they handle grievance, they fix conflict, and they make sure that there's a low staff turnover. Staff turnover means how many people goes away in a year. Low staff turnover means no one leaves. High staff turnover means you've got a new person coming in every month, every second month. That is a bad thing for a business to have. So public relations function. Public relations is the business function that looks after the image of the business. So they need to quickly deal with negative publicity because negative publicity will get customers to go to other businesses. They will provide regular press releases, keep the customers informed of what's happening. And they are the ones that deliver quality goods and services that promotes the brand and with the key stakeholders. Now, stakeholders, remember, is anyone that has an interest in the business. Quality indicators of the production function. So therefore, you look at how do services could be produced at lower possible cost. They make sure that they're doing it at the best of their ability. They communicate the roles of every single person so that everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Obtain capital from the most reliable sources. You do it at a bank. You don't go to a loan shark. You implement financial control so that people can't steal your money, so there's no fraud. Draw up accurate financial statements so that you know whether the business is actually profitable or not. Then this type of question, especially where it says read the scenario. This question is important, or this type of question is important because you need to focus on what the scenario wants you to do. But unfortunately, we've run out of time. I want to say grade 12s, thank you very much. Good luck and keep safe.